All right, Fifi, welcome to my channel.
Thanks for having me here.
So for the benefit of the viewers, maybe you should give us a, little introduction about yourself and your time in the industry.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Ifeanyi Barbara Chidi. I'm a writer, director, and producer. Now, things I've written, I've created shows that you might have heard of. I've created shows for Showmax and for Africa Magic. I created DJ, also created Chetam, which book one just finished. Watch out for book 2. I created Riona, created Dilemma, also contributed to the creation of Adoche, and I've worked on web series on Ndani and TNC. So Love Like This and Our Best Friend's Wedding Season 2.
That's a great body of work, and I know for a fact that some of those shows we have worked on them together, we've collaborated on them, and I think that when we go on to the next set of questions, we might want to take some of those shows as a backdrop for some of our conversations.
Okay, cool.
Shows like Unbroken, I believe, Rihanna,
Yes.
DJ, Chetam, and they're all running now. So I think it's an opportunity for people to see what they are like, and if we did a good job or not.
We did a good job.
I think we did. So let's talk about building story world. And I think it'll be a good idea for people to hear about your process when you're conceiving the story world. And I know that with the story world, for us, I would break it into 2 parts. I would break it into the characters and then their habitat, which is the environment. So, but we can start with the environment. What do you think? How do you conceive your story world when you're writing?
The funny thing is that there's no direct process. Sometimes the characters come first,
Okay.
and sometimes the story itself comes first.
Okay.
And I wish I could use. Okay, I want to use an example. Riona.
Oh, I see.
When Riona, we were at Dev, and the idea for Riona came to me. All I had was one line: a king, a prophet. No, I had a prophecy, a king, a wicked king, and then killing of babies. Those were the 3 lines I had.
I see.
And so a prophecy, you just know that that's a happening.
Okay.
A wicked king is the character.
Okay.
And then killing of babies is also another happening. And I also knew that I had a particular fondness for the Ishekiri language.
I see.
So I knew that I wanted to put this in
because I was
Ishekiri
going to
language.
ask, at what point did you decide where to situate the story in terms of the tribe?
Yeah, so I think it started off as Ishekiri. Then at some point they wanted us to move it to, this was the channel, wanted us to move it deeper into the south. But at the end of the day, it still came back because the culture of the people they wanted us to move into was quite difficult to get information about. So I ended up having my way, moved it back to Ishekiri land.
Yes.
And things just worked out at the time, because when the story first came, it came as a love story, but it didn't first come as the love wasn't the first thing that hit me. The first thing that hit me was the idea of a prophecy and a king who was trying to stop a prophecy by killing babies.
Yes.
And then the more I talked about it, the more I thought about it, the more the story world grew. So it became, there's a wicked king and his son escapes the prophecy when he kills other babies. Now this son, I wanted to give him a love story. So what if another girl escapes from the other side? And then it was when we went to, so I had the story, but it was when we went to the workshop that all the other parts of the story, so it's like a story engine, right? When gears come together, so all the other characters were coming in, people like Jolomi, people like Arenyeka. So initially the priest was supposed to be a man, but it became a woman, Arenyeka. So it was at the workshop that because creativity can't happen in a silo, it can't happen alone. But when you put your minds together with other people, you collaborate, and then your story world grows, the story environment grows. So once we knew that we were doing it in the Ishekiri land, a lot of research went into the other nuances. Okay, so how do Ishekiri people speak? What kind of things would they say? What is the environment? Especially when we now did the division between the
caste system.
Yes, the caste system. So when we did that, we're able to now say, okay, how will the royals in the higher system speak, and how will the lower caste speak? and all of that came together, characters, happenings, and then story world.
It was very interesting what the cast system did for us in the production design team, because it created another layer for us. We were now faced with the responsibility of figuring out how to physically differentiate the cast, and that now gave it, it made the story world a bit more three-dimensional as against being in one complete place. So it was really interesting. And also, of course, the normal questions, how would they speak, and that translated to how they live, their dwelling places and all that. And I thought that it was very interesting. But there were conversations about whether the caste system really happened, how long ago it happened, whether it's still practiced today and things like that.
So the funny thing is that when that caste system hit me, I was basing it off the Osu caste system.
Yes.
Do you know that it was after basing it off the Osu caste system that I found out that it actually happened in Ishekiri land?
Wow.
So when we're trying to fictionalize a caste system that resembled the Osu caste system, and then when we now did research, we found out that this thing actually happened in Ishekiri, which was great for us, because at the end of the day, it now had impact on actual happenings when the Ogiame now said that there was no longer a classification.
Yes. It was very, and it was another thing that was fascinating at the time was when Rihanna first aired, when it was on air, it sort of coincided with the period where the real Ogiame was being coronated. And then there were some of the words of praise that were used. And it sort of, increased our credibility as regards what we did.
It made us feel like we did our homework, and that's always wonderful when production. I don't think it has ever happened to me before. I don't know if it has ever happened where a production coincides with something that's happening in real life, and then you now see that things are.
Neither has it happened to me. I think Rihanna was the one time that it did happen, and it was very, very interesting, because I remember we had some custodians of the culture reach out to us initially and say, they were very touchy about it. But, I thought that helped a great deal, and it made a lot of them back off, because I know, people are normally, they get very, I don't want to use the word entitled, but they get very touchy about when you try to depict their history.
Culture. People love their culture. And I think one thing that helped, I remember going online when the show first started, and somebody said, she tweeted, "You want to tell a story about the Ishekiri and I can't see water." And I was like, can you calm down? Because at the end of the day, we did show water.
Yes, we did.
And then I remember something that was in the design for the Iriale homes. They were like lifted on stilts to show that, this is a marshy area. And those little attention to detail, I think it made people. But first they were like, hey, this thing is hard, but they calmed down.
I understood the skepticism, because there is a tendency to get some things wrong. And I know that one of the conversations that I had with the executive producer at the time was how to balance historical accuracy with visual acceptance, because there were elements of the history that weren't necessarily things that were visually appealing per se, but I mean, we got by. We got by. We had those conversations. We knew where to snip some things and introduce some things. What was fascinating, I remember that the issue of the Irale community and the way that their structures were supposed to be, it was both a structural solution as it was a visual and cultural aspect of how they lived, because we actually were having challenges with water in that place at the time.
Interesting.
And so we needed to get those structures to a place where if we wanted to use those places, we would never have to bother if the water dried up or not, But at the same time, we looked at the fact that in the riverine areas, this was how structures were built, in order for them to be in those actual swampy places and, riverine areas. And so it worked out perfectly for both sides of the narrative.
Lovely. Another thing I really enjoyed, and I've really enjoyed working with your team, is the back and forth, the conversations between the writing team and the production team. When you guys want to do something, you ask us, okay, does this work? Does it? And I loved it. That collaboration, I think it's one of the things that has helped our productions turn out the way they have, where we come on set and we see the structures and we're like blown out of the water because, oh yes, this is close to something that we saw in our head. So that's props to your team.
Thank you. So that cohesion, although it's the responsibility of the art director to start to pull his or her team together, and carry all of them along, but we always still have to get back to the enabling environment.
Yes.
What does the executive producer allow, and how does the executive producer come at some of these things? So, but if they don't, then it's your responsibility as an art director to start to try to pull
people together
so that you carry as many people along as possible, so we're all on the same page. There's no isolation. I think
what a lot of people need to keep in focus, that film and TV, it's collaborative.
Yes,
it's not, you can't work in isolation.
Very, very collaborative. Let's talk about what you wrote versus what you've seen. And I mean, we can talk about the good ones and we can talk about the bad ones as well.
Okay, let me start with good. What the other versus what I got? So good, a lot of the epics that we worked on, when you're writing these large story worlds, sometimes you panic because you know the limitations of the budget and capacity of the crew. But when we get there, I remember the first time I got on set for, I think it was Ajoche.
Okay.
I was in awe. And I know that there was someone who said, oh, when we got there, someone said, oh, the sand is not red. It's red sand that is in Benue State. And I was like, let's enter first. And we entered. And I saw the structures. And I saw there was a drawing on the wall of the King's Palace.
Yes.
And I was like, the attention to detail, it was more than we could have imagined. Because what we assumed was, okay, there isn't a lot of money, but let's just get there and just be okay. But we got there and we saw this space, and we saw these huts, and we saw these structures, we saw these sculptures, and it was an amazing experience. So I knew that when we were doing Real Now, I was expecting to just amp it up a bit, and that was also great. I remember the first time I saw Tuaro walk into the water.
Yes.
And I was like, yes, we really got it.
That was a very interesting scene.
It was, yes. And I was like, oh, we got the water. He walked through fields, and I was like, yes, because the landscape was landscaping and the water was there. So good. The epics have been really good. Now to the some of the contemporary stories.
Yes.
Right. Some of them teach me a lesson. Sometimes a good lesson where you're like, okay, maybe next time we shouldn't try to write it like this. I remember one of the shows, we had an actor strapped. We had two actors strapped to a bomb. Right?
Okay.
And the bomb, it looked like a bomb as well as it could. But I think, I don't know if this was design or if this was, maybe it was, I don't know. The actors were moving a lot. In a real life scenario, if you're strapped to a bomb, you're dead. I remember shouting at my television, stop moving! Because they were arguing, and I was like, okay, this is a lesson for me. Because, Nigerians, it's difficult for us to talk with that. Even me, I'm talking, I'm gesticulating. So I was like, this is a lesson for me. Maybe next time, if I ever put someone to a bomb, maybe they don't say anything. Like, these are lessons that I learned. And then production design, there was a show where someone was supposed to be pushed on the staircase. And I remember, this changed eventually, but I remember going to the first set and I saw the stairs. there was a carpet on the stairs. Let me explain. She was supposed to be pushed from the stairs and fall into a coma. You know how you see Mexican telenovelas where somebody rolls up the stairs and
Yes.
boom, she's in a coma for a month or so. The stairs had, I counted, 12 steps.
So it was a single flight
It was
of
a
stairs.
single flight of stairs, and then there was a carpet, so it will even cushion her
Your fall.
like if you fall. And I climbed up and I tried to throw myself down, and I'm telling you, the character could not even have walked away with a headache. But that eventually changed to like the proper spiral staircase. So that one was a nightmare because I was really scared, because I was like, yeah, people would watch this and say, oh, what did the writers write? Not knowing that it's the design that now affects so the writers wrote that she fell from the stairs and she went into a coma. But when the production design doesn't particularly suit what the writers have written, it now affects the story, because it's unbelievable that someone will fall down a flight of 12 steps and
get into a coma. And I think this buttresses, the topic that we are talking about now, the need for collaboration, the need for these two departments to start having the conversations early in the production, because obviously the production design team was clearly unprepared for what was written, and it also had its implications on, because I want to believe that was one of those productions where you used real locations as against sets. So clearly there must have been a disconnect between what the brief the location management team got, and what the writers had already written. So, and one of the things that we talked about, when we were talking initially, was how different departments work in isolation. And because they do, the end product shows the lack of synergy, because in order for you to find visual harmony in a lot of these stories, different departments need to understand what the other department is doing. And more specifically, the production design team, because they are the builders of the writing. So when there is a disconnect, it shows. It shows, because we want to complement each other in the way that we bring out, in the way that we tell these stories. We want viewers to see what is going on as well as hear what is going on. And in order for that to be effective, we need to understand what each other is doing. That's all we have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, I think that you should, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, Fifi, for being on the show.
Thank you, Jay, for having me.
We'll see you next time.